Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I am Trellis Williams right here, and joining us as well is our co-host right here, Ollie Hammonds, joining us right here from Laurel, Mississippi. And Ollie, man, thank you for joining us once again. You're back, man.
I know I'm back, and I got a bit of a bone to pick, Trellis. You dress up in a sport coat last time. I mean, you were looking snazzy, and then you're in casual wear for me. I mean, what is
Oh,
this?
oh, come on, man. Look, hey, look, it's still a long sleeve polo. It's a good polo. It's a good
Okay,
polo.
okay,
Don't
okay.
diss on the
You you
polo,
you
man.
you passed this week. You passed this week.
Okay, just passed. All right, all right, man. So we're back, and the Thanksgiving break just went by. But we did have a few games there between our last show and then Thanksgiving break. So we got some games to talk about right here. First, for some 16U boys action, the Hattiesburg Forerunners met up with the Jackson Victors, defeated them 52-18. So they handled the Jackson Victors pretty well there in 16U boys play. Also, the Muddy River Counselors defeated the Meridian Flyers 56-20. The Counselors, number one seed in 16U boys, they're able to remain undefeated with a 36-point win over Meridian. The Laurel Nighthawks were able to pull one out up in Tupelo, taking on the Tupelo Titans by a score of 52-43. Now let's start with that Hattiesburg and Jackson ball game. Hattiesburg staying undefeated there. They're undefeated in 18U boys and 16U boys. This is 16U boys right here against the Jackson Victors, getting a 34-point win. What was your takeaway there from Hattiesburg's win?
Listen, we talked about this last week, and in the 18U boys realm, it's the same as the 16U boys. For you to solidify yourself as a contender, I've always felt you've got to beat Jackson because Jackson has always been the cream of the crop in just the way that they play and just the way they handle themselves on the court. And it's sort of like if you want to make it in the college football playoffs, you got to beat an SEC team. And I think that Hattiesburg they beat their SEC team, and they're making themselves into contenders. And I think that's a big deal for them to knock off Jackson. So it's a big deal to them.
Yeah, for sure. And also, then the next game, we're talking about Muddy River Counselors defeating the Meridian Flyers by a score of 56-20. They're able to kind of cruise to that victory there in Hickory. Counselors have been rolling there, especially there in the 16U boys. They're undefeated there. What's your takeaway from that? And just speak to just the Counselor 16U boys team.
Uh, they scored a lot of points, but the thing I mostly look at is only 20 points allowed. That's huge if you can play defense that well. Only 20 points, um, and that's a thing that Muddy River's always been very good offensively, and that's not where they need to prove themselves. It's defensively, and they've been very good defensively in the past. But if they can play defense well, everything else falls into place, and they did that there against Meridian.
Yeah, and the Laurel Nighthawks defeating the Tupelo Titans by a score of 52-43. Now the Titans, they are not rolling with any 18U boys this season. They have a 16U boys and a 14U boys team. So high emphasis for Tupelo on the 16U boys game. And they played the Laurel Nighthawks, and the Nighthawks able to grind away and win the ball game by 9. So what's your takeaway from Laurel's win over Tupelo there?
I think that 16U group for Laurel, practiced with them. I've played with them for years. And now watching them, because this is my first year not on two teams. So I've actually been able to kind of step back and just watch them. That 16U group here in Laurel is really good. They know how to play with one another. They're great friends off the court, and it shows on the court. And they're really, really fun to watch. I know they put up 52 points. I think that they could have put up more. The only problem is when you travel 3 hours for a game, you're not going to be sharp. It's one of those things. Like we
Mm,
talked about one time, early Saturday morning games. Well, it was a Saturday game, 3 hours away from where you live. You're not going to be as
yeah.
sharp. They still put up 52 points in those conditions, so that I think that's a good sign for them, and I think they're going to be really really good this year.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's Laura, and then with Tupelo, just interesting that they have the home game. They have they haven't been able to play a whole lot of games yet. They have a sparse schedule so far, but able to get a good matchup with Laurel and keep it close. 52-43,
Yeah.
tough fought out score there. 18U girls action. There's only one game. The Meridian Flyers and the Muddy River Counselors. The Flyers were able to get the win, 35-20. Um, and so Meridian, one of the top teams in the 18U girls conference there with PCA and Laurel, and Hattiesburg. You got a four-way contest there in the 18U girls field. What's your takeaway from that one?
I think it's just a Meridian team that's really, really good. Facing a Muddy River team that's sort of still trying to, solidify themselves in the league. You got to get a win any way you can, and so it's a it's a good thing for them that they get the win there. But I think mostly Muddy River scoring 20 points. That's pretty good for a team that's trying to establish itself in the conference.
Yeah, definitely was it was a solid performance by the counselors, considering the fact that the expectations going into the game were not the highest there. Definitely Meridian was very heavily favored. It was 11-8 after the first quarter, so the game was pretty close there for a little bit, but then Meridian started to pull away because of their talent. They got a lot of talent there, especially in that starting
Mhm.
five. Now moving on to some 18U boys action. The Muddy River Counselors defeating the Meridian Flyers 80-38, so they get a 42-point win there. Hattiesburg Forerunners defeat the Jackson Victors 48-31. That was a big game with Hattiesburg getting a big conference win. That's their second conference win of the year, but able to play a solid opponent there. Then what was the game of the week? The Laurel Nighthawks defeated the Scott County Flames 61-45, and I see you're smiling about that. I know you're happy about it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's start off talking about that Muddy River Meridian. Meridian just kind of in that rebuilding stage. What's been tough for them though is two of their best players, Cooper Franklin, who's young, and Hasten Caldwell, one of their seniors, out with injury.
Yeah.
So they're already in a rebuilding stage, but then to lose some of your best players with injury, you got to tip your hat to Coach Raspberry for the job he's done so far with those guys, because it gets tough when you start losing guys.
Yeah. They couldn't really afford to lose anybody, and then
Yeah,
there they go losing people. So I think it's a big deal that they put up 38 points against Muddy River. Uh, but once again, we see Muddy River just overwhelming on off 80 points. I mean, they're putting up 70, 75, 80 points routinely in 18U. They're just, they're that home run hitter offense, and I think that's going to propel them far. But I think a good showing for Meridian.
yeah, and this was a huge game, Hattiesburg and Jackson, and it always has been. These are the first two teams of the conference that we have here. This MSAHA conference started with Hattiesburg, then went with Jackson, then went with Laurel, and then Meridian, Scott County, and then PCA and them. So, but Hattiesburg Jackson, you talking about two charter members taking on each other in Hattiesburg. Hattiesburg has a team that's on the rise. Jackson, once again, I mean, you got to give credit to Coach Crosby there for the Victors, the second year in a row of doing better than expected. I mean, you gotta give some credit where credit's due. Last year seemed like it was going to be a down year, but really wasn't. They had a strong group. This year was supposed to be a down year, and it kind of is, but it's still they're hanging around. But they take the loss to Hattiesburg there, 48-31, as Hattiesburg able to get a solid win there. What's your takeaway from that one?
I think most people are going to look at that and go, 48 points. You know what it was? It was one of these. It was a W. That's all that Hattiesburg needs right now. They need W's, and they're getting them. They're playing fantastic this season, and a lot of games you can be off, but some games can be just defensive matchups. So I really don't look much into the low scoring part of the game. But you're right, Jackson still putting together a pretty solid year, even though they're missing some people, and it's just probably, isn't what they envisioned the year being like, but still, playing very, very well. But Hattiesburg, team on the rise, we talked about uh, at the beginning, they were a dark horse to us, but I think they're slowly moving into contender and possibly top three in our conference.
Yeah, and so last one we're going to talk about from this past week, the Laurel Nighthawks defeating the Scott County Flames 61-45. That was on live on the MSAHA primetime. I was there for that ball game, calling it, and Ollie, you were in it. So the Nighthawks defeating the Scott County Flames 61-45. A great start. Braden Dry coming up big in the
Yes.
first quarter with 11 first quarter points.
Yes.
But that Laurel offense, those guys looked like they knew what they looked like they knew exactly what their roles were. So just speak to that
Yeah.
game, and you're a member of the team, member of the starting lineup. So just talk about that.
Yeah. So the whole narrative I'm going to go back to my first year on varsity was 2020, 2021. That was a team that was taking over for, you know, Michael Jenkins, Ethan Harris, a lot of great players. And there was sort of that narrative of the varsity team's not going to be that good this year, and then we win the state championship. They took it, they made it their own, and they go through. Same thing with last year. We lost a state championship team, not going to be that good. Well, then we win back to back state champ. We won back to back state championships 2 times in a row, 2 of them,
Well, yeah,
2 state championships.
yeah.
Anyways, but it was like that was like one of our first big games. We've been playing some non-conference teams, and so coming in the game, we know Scott County is a good basketball team. This is the
Yeah.
best Scott County team that I've ever seen. They're a fantastic basketball team. So it was kind of, we didn't come in thinking, this is old Scott County. We got this win, and we just came in and it's like we started writing our own story. This is our own team, and great start, great start from everybody on the floor. Just I think the score was 20-4 at the end of the first quarter. And you're right. That's what won us the game. Was everybody stayed in their roles. And if you'll notice, Braden Dry did that. He scored 11 in the first quarter, and then he really kind of didn't do much until the fourth quarter. And everybody goes, "Well, why didn't he go for more?" If he goes for more, they're double teaming him at that point. If a guy scores 11 points in the first quarter, I'm pretty sure he's not going to get many quality shots in the second or third, right?
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He just kind of stepped back. It was kind of a bit of a decoy, and was
Yeah.
our passing with the passing. Caleb Blankenship, that's the guy I need to point out here. Caleb Blankenship, he has the ability to drive all the time, and he has the ability to get
Yeah.
20 points a night. But he realized, he's the point. The point guard is. I mean, he just made everybody else better in that game, and so it was everybody stayed to their roles. And I think that the beginning of the year has been a bit of a struggle, a little bit for our team. We got a win here, a loss here. It's just kind of been a bit of a struggle. And then I think we got the recipe for how we can win, how this team can win. And listen, we're not the most talented players. I'm just going to go out and say it. We're not going to have all 5 of the all-star starters. But what we got is we've got 3 guys on the court who have been playing in this conference for 6 years. We've got a guy who's been playing here for 5 and a guy who's been playing here for 3. That was your starting lineup. I mean, that's a lot of experience
Yeah.
in this league, in this conference. And so that's what our quote unquote superpower is. We got a lot of experience and a lot of guys that know what everybody else is going to do, and we just filled those roles very well. Scott County kept the fight. It's easy to just kind of go home in your mind when you're down 20-4, but they just kept fighting, kept chipping away. And I mean, they played really well the rest of the game. It's just that first quarter really did set the tone for us. I could feel it on the court. The tone was set when we won that first quarter. I mean, that was it. But Scott County just kept fighting back, and we had to play. I mean, we had to play.
Mm.
So that was a really good game, and really excited to see what us and Scott County do the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So last thing we're going to talk about from last week is the PCA Paladins winning the West Florida Invitational in Milton, Florida. They were invited to it was West Florida Baptist uh, Academy invited them to a tournament, and they were able to get the win. Won 3 games. 18U boys and 18U girls both won the tournament, swept it through. And if you're talking about 18U boys, now they stand at 6-1 overall, with their only loss being the PCS down in Hattiesburg, one of the top private schools in the state of Mississippi. So definitely, only loss was to a pretty good team. So PCA looking pretty good right now. Just talk about PCA and just where they are. They look pretty solid.
Yeah, they look really solid. First of all, that's great for our conference for them
Yeah.
to go out of state and to win a tournament. we're no joke.
Yeah.
um, I said at the beginning of the year that they're going to be kind of scary to play this year because they're hungry and they really, 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 really want it this year. You thought they wanted it last year? No, sir. They really, really want it this year.
Uh,
And so they have stepped up their game, and with personnel changes and everything, they're still the same old PCA that's going to just jam it down your throat offensively, and they got quick hands on defense. So PCA is having a great year. Um, I personally, I don't think they're exceeding expectations. It's exactly what I thought they would do. They are just performing. They're 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 one of the best teams in our conference.
yeah. Absolutely, they are the number one team in 18U boys at the moment, and so now that will bring me to reminding me subscribe, hit the subscribe button to the TSU Network YouTube. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That's where all the coverage here of the MSAHA basketball is. We stream games live. We do this show. And we got plenty of coverage here, right here on the TSU Network. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So now we're going to move into next week's action, this next upcoming week here. So for 16U boys on November the 29th, Tuesday, the Mount Zion Lions will be heading to Laurel to take on the Laurel Nighthawks in 16U boys action. Laurel, Mount Zion should be a pretty tough matchup because Mount Zion's got plenty of talent. Laurel's got talent as well, and so that should be interesting. Laurel sitting at 1-0 in conference, 4-0 overall. Mount Zion 2-2, 3-3. So they are 500. They are a 500 ball club, but they have some good players as well. Just preview that game for us, Ollie.
I think that's going to be an interesting game to watch because I think you're right. Mount Zion's climbing up the ladder. They're becoming contenders,
Yeah.
and so it's going to be a game. It's going to be a really, 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 really good game. I don't know who will win. To be honest with you, I cannot call it for me. I have not watched much of Mount Zion this season, so that's the only reason why I have a little bit of hesitation calling the game.
Mm.
But I think it's going to be a good game. Mount Zion always physical, and so it's going to be a physical, hard fought game, all the way to the buzzer. But it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, for sure. Next one, Hattiesburg Forerunners and the Muddy River Counselors. That's a huge game because those are the those are the top two teams in the conference right now. The Muddy River Counselors right now sitting right there at 4-0 overall, 3-0 in conference. Hattiesburg Forerunners 3-0 in conference and 3-0 overall. So you're talking, this is a banger, man, that we're going into the Hattiesburg Forerunners and the Muddy River Counselors. That will be in Raymond, Mississippi on Thursday. It will be live on Counselors TV, which is on the TSU Network YouTube. Just preview that one for us.
Before I do, first Trellis, hang up and hang out. Okay, we're important. You need to silence your phone, please.
Oh, well, listen.
Listen, Trellis. That's going to be a really, really good game. I think it's sort of a team that's got great offense in Muddy River against a team that I think is one of the better defensive teams in the conference. So it's going to be interesting to see how the two match up. Hattiesburg, Muddy River sort of play the same style. So, I mean, like the PCA Muddy River game, who's going to do that obscure thing better? Who's going to shoot the mid-range shot better? Who's going to have better free throws? Who's not going to turn over the ball more? So it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be one of our best matchups this week. Period. Not just 16U boys, 18U girls, 18. It's going to be our best matchup. Period. So I think that's going to be a fun game, and I cannot wait to see that one.
Absolutely, and so then the next one, the Laurel Nighthawks and the Jackson Victors, that will be in Ridgeland, Mississippi, as the Laurel Nighthawks travel to play the Jackson Victors. That will be on Friday, and so that should be an interesting matchup there. The Victors kind of been struggling there in 16U, and it kind of has something to do too with how they structure it, where they have younger players playing 16U. They don't tend to have because with the 16U, the strong teams use their players that are eligible, and so they have juniors playing. 16U.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you got you a strong. Whereas the Victors, a lot of times they usually play like up to ninth graders and 10th graders, and so it's been kind of putting them behind the eight ball on that. So they're taking on the Laurel Nighthawks, and the Nighthawks have looked strong so far. So just preview that one for us.
Listen, man, in the 90s, we had Bulls, Pistons. We have Green Bay Packers and the Bears, and in our conference, we have Laurel and Jackson. I mean, I don't care how good one team is and how bad the other one is. It's always going to be a close game, always, no matter what. So I'm excited. I'm in the gym for that one, waiting on my game. So that's going to be a good matchup, and that's going to be fun. Once again, I can't call it. I don't know because anything happens. I mean, anything can happen in those matchups. So um, that's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And so then the Mount Zion Lions will head to Raymond to take on the Muddy River Counselors. This will be the second meeting between the two teams.
Yeah.
Last time, the Counselors able to get a 30-point win there over the Mount Zion Lions when it was in Mendenhall. The Counselors are sitting at the number one seed. Of course, they'll be coming off the Hattiesburg game, so we'll see what happens in that game. And so we'll be post that game. We'll be after that game to see what the result of that one will be. But this is on Friday night in Raymond. So what is your idea of what that game's going to be like?
I think Mount Zion against. I think it's. I think it's. So I'll say this: in baseball, Laurel Nighthawks, we played last season the Meridian Flyers. Literally, what felt like every other game we played Meridian. And you think that by then you're going to know who's going to win. You're going to know the outcome. You just don't. You can't call it in sports. That's why sports is amazing. You can't. You just cannot call any game. I think that's going to be a great game for Mount Zion facing Muddy River again. Can they improve? Are they improving as the season goes on? And can Muddy River continue to just be that offensive powerhouse and quick hands defense? So it's going to be interesting. I would call Muddy River a win, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, and so now moving on to some 18U girls, the Mount Zion Lions heading to Laurel to take on the Laurel Lady Hawks, and this will be the first conference game of the season for the Lady Hawks. They have not played any conference games yet, but they are coming. They are ready to get some wins again because they are coming off two losses. Where they lost to Wayne Academy was the last one. They also lost to the Saline County Warriors at the Cross State Classic. Both of these losses were close losses, but still losses for Laurel. They're coming off of a 23-3 season last year. But the Laurel Lady Hawks did play the Mount Zion Lions at the Cross State Classic, finished 79-14. So this would be a tough one. Mount Zion kind of they have an uphill battle there taking on Laurel. So just preview that game for us. That game's coming up on Tuesday.
Yeah, make no mistake, Laurel is still a powerhouse in this conference for 18U girls. I that'll more than likely be a Laurel win, um, but I think that's a great game for them to mentally get back, regroup, and let's work on some things. And I think Laurel will win that one because I mean they've had this stretch of dominance and they've just got a dynasty going on right now. I mean, you know, so I think Laurel will win that one, but it'd be a good game for Mount Zion to see how close they can hang with a top team in our conference.
Yep. And then there's going to be Hattiesburg at Muddy River. That will be in Raymond. As we've talked about already, are that those games are happening there. This is the 18U girls matchup. The Hattiesburg Forerunners have already beat the Muddy River Counselors in 18U girls by a score of 47-12. So that was a blowout win for Hattiesburg. Hattiesburg definitely favored to win the ball game. Just preview that game for us.
Hattiesburg's a very well established team in the 18U girls, and like I said before, Muddy River's still trying to get footing. So you know, I think it's a great opportunity for. Listen, another great thing about sports and about basketball too is when you share the floor with one of the better teams in the conference with an established team, you pick up on some things. You
Mm-hmm.
just do. You pick up on some things. You learn some lessons during the game. So I think that's a great opportunity for Muddy River to play somebody like Hattiesburg early on this season. So I think Hattiesburg is the heavy favorites. So I think that it's going to be a a great chance though for Muddy River to really pick up on some things that Hattiesburg's doing, and let's see if they can compete.
Yeah, and then the last 18U girls game is another Muddy River ball game, another Mount Zion ball game as well. The Mount Zion Lions and the Muddy River Counselors in Raymond. Now that one though is a little bit different. Mount Zion is still the favorite, but last ball game between these two teams was a 31-23 matchup, so it was close. It came down to the finish. Mount Zion was able to hold off the Counselors. Counselors made a run in the end. Um, so that one should be more interesting there. But Mount Zion still has the favor edge there. Just preview that one for us.
Mount Zion. It's a hard fought game, like you said. So I think Buddy River might be able to sneak one here. Let's see if they might be able to sneak a win out, right? And but Mount Zion, they should win that game, and so it matters. It's as much of a test to play somebody that you should beat. Can you beat the people that you can beat? And so let's see if Mount Zion can continue to beat teams that they should beat.
Yeah, but if the Counselors get the win, it'd be their first 18U girls win conference win in history. So that
right on
would
the
be,
table.
yeah, for sure. And so then 18U boys, we got the Laurel Nighthawks going to Jackson to take on the Jackson Victors. That will be on the Friday. That's the 18U boys ball game. Jackson just coming off of a tough loss there to Hattiesburg, 48-31. Now they will be hosting the Laurel Nighthawks, so that would be interesting. The Victors right now 1-2 in conference. They're 1-8 overall. The Laurel Nighthawks 1-0 in conference, 3-4 overall. So, and Ollie, you're going to be in that game. So, what are your thoughts on it?
It's going to be physical. It's going to be a rivalry. It's going to be hard, and both teams, we're just going to have to see who will grit it out the most.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a interesting game to see what the outcome will be. I hope it's a Laurel win, of course,
Well,
but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, and so so anyway, last game, it is the game of the week, and that is the Hattiesburg Forerunners and the Muddy River Counselors. And so that is the 18E boys ball game. That will be live on Counselors TV, which is on the TSW Network YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, turn your notifications on. That is the way you'll be able to see when that game comes on. It will be on Thursday night. So the Forerunners and the Counselors, both the teams, they are high up in 18U boys standings. The Counselors sitting at the 4 seed right now, whereas Hattiesburg sitting at the 2 seed. So Hattiesburg 4-0 overall, 2-0 in the conference. The Counselors are 5-2 overall, 2-1 in the conference. The Counselors have also had some good non-conference wins. They were able to beat a good private school in Jackson, the Hillcrest Christian Cougars. They're also able to get a big win over the Faulkner County Falcons, homeschool team from up in the Arkansas area. So Counselors able to get some good non-conference wins, in Hattiesburg undefeated period. Undefeated in boys period. Overall. So just preview this matchup. This is the big matchup.
It's going to be a lot like the 16U boys. I think it's two very close, very similar styles. So it's going to be sort of like it's going to be. I know I say this about every matchup, but this really truly is going to be really really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I'm really really excited to see it because it's Muddy River is really it's both teams really trying to say, hey, we're here to compete in 18U.
Yeah.
They're both very capable of it, but they both have to prove it first. And what's funny is that they can prove it against one another. So yeah. I think that it means a lot for both teams.
Absolutely. And and so be sure to check out the website, tswnetwork.net. We've got articles on there. Ollie just wrote an article, put it up on there. I write articles on there as well. So we got articles going. We got scores. We got standings, running standings. I was just checking the website for the standings. That's where all that information is. You can go and look at all the schedules from everybody, see who's playing when. All that kind of stuff is available on the TSJW Network website. It's tsjwnetwork.net. Another thing I want to tell y'all as well is that with the show, we noticed that we did it here today on Saturday at 7 p.m. That is when we plan on starting to do it at Saturdays at 7 p.m. We hope that works well for y'all. Obviously, there are going to be some games on Saturdays, but we'll figure that out. 7 p.m. should be after all the games are done on a normal basis. But it is what it is. We'll do what we have to do, and we'll keep you updated. And be sure to follow the Instagram at TSJW Network. We do give updates on when the shows are on there. So just be sure to follow the TSJW Network Instagram at TSJW Network as well. And so, this is the show, the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. Ollie, thank you for joining us once again.
Hey, I'm enjoying it. We got a big week coming up, and we got a big month coming up in December. So stay tuned.
Absolutely, stay tuned. December is a big month, and keep an eye on the game of the week this week, the Hattiesburg Forerunners and the Muddy River Counselors. That is on Thursday, but keep an eye on all these games. You can go and check them out. Check out the results there on the TSJW Network. They're posted in a pretty timely fashion. At the very latest, it's pretty much up by noon the next day. So be sure to keep that on the follow. Usually we get it the night of. But anyway, thank you for joining us. I am Trellis Williams. Right here with me, Ollie Hammonds. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. We out.